Welcome to Readings from the Animal Kingdom with Kareema from Pet Care Magic. I'm an animal communicator, a Reiki master who specialises in animals, and an intuitive psychic. And I like to combine all of those modalities into channeling messages from the animal kingdom for myself and for others. We live within a community of not only people, but a community of many, many wild animals, as well as many domesticated animals. You might have dogs or cats or fish or birds or rats or mice or whatever in your home, tarantulas if that's the sort of animal you love, in your home. But then there's also a huge number of animals outside of your home, from big to small, up in the sky, down in the earth, even under the earth, in the trees, right around us. And all of those animals at any particular point in time may or may not have a message for you. And I'm going to invite you through these readings done every week on a Sunday, hopefully, to listen to that message, take what resonates for you, and open up your way of thinking over the following week into how that message does or doesn't fit into your life. It's okay if it doesn't. It's okay if only some of it does. That is 100% up to you. The animal kingdom has no egos. They don't mind. They just hang around out there, and if they're given an opportunity to communicate a message, they will. Each week will have a particular theme to it. Before I start the reading, I will meditate on what animal I think has the overarching message for that week. And I will then choose which of the numerous animal-themed decks I have to work out which deck I will be using for that reading. So this week I'm back to my crystal deck. And as it turned out, this was quite an appropriate appropriate card to pull. The card that came out was Moonstone. And it is one of the stones that I actually have a piece of moonstone. So not only did I have the deck and the card to inspire me, but there's a lovely piece of moonstone that I have within my collection that I'm able to just hold and see what messages I'm getting from it. So moonstone represents fertility, reflection, intuition, imagination, goddess energy, and amplified feelings. It also tells us that during the appearance of the next full moon, that it's normal for your emotions and your feelings to be amplified, and it's a very full moon is often a very difficult time for those who are not so mentally stable. It is a time when there is just so much energy floating around that it's often very hard for people who are very empathic to handle all of that extra energy coming around. But it is also therefore a highly creative time, because the extra energy of the full moon can actually help the creatives bring out quite a lot of really creative energy. It's also a great time to put your crystals out and get them recharged by the moon, get them sort of just amped up. But the moonstone points out to us that there are 4 phases of the moon. So this full moon phase is fleeting. It's good to go out there and sit under the full moon and soak up the moon's energy and recharge and revitalize and reflect and tap into the intuition and see what your imagination is going to tell you. But it is only a short period. I went and had a look to see when the next full moon is in Australia. And so this is based on Sydney. The next full moon is 11:30 p.m. on the 24th of February. Do a little bit of quick Googling, when's the next full moon in my area, and it will tell you. At the moment, we're in a third quarter. 3rd of February is the third quarter. The new moon coming out on the 10th of February, first quarter on the 17th of February, and then the full moon or the hang on, did the book say next full moon? Yeah, the next full moon, not new moon. They're a little different. The next new moon versus full moon is slightly different. So where are we? The 4th. So we're in the third quarter at the moment. What's called a waning crescent, and that's about all I can tell you about the moon. I'm not really into all the moon phases. I do love full moons, and not so much here that I'm in town, But when I was living out on the property, I have still out on the property, this lovely big, super big picture window in the off the kitchen that looks back out to the coast. And I used to be able to sit there and watch the moon literally rising out off the coastline and rising up and coming up very high in the sky. And I did spend a lot of time sitting there staring at it. If I remind myself on the 24th of February, I'll see if I can pick some time, although 11:30 at night's a bit late for me. Pick a little bit of time and see whether I can go out and watch the moon rising out where I am here now. Because although I'm not out on the farm anymore, because the farm's sitting up on a hill and looking back down the valley, where I am now, I'm sort of on a hill. I don't quite have as much of a sight line to the sky as I have out on the farm. So there's a changeover when the new moon, when the next full moon comes out. So we've got the new moon within the next few days, the 10th, and then the full moon on the 24th, which means a change. And to me, what that's saying is it's a time to push away what hasn't served you well, and find out what can come in now and replace that. So open yourself up to that. Reflect on life, past and present. Be okay with letting go of stuff that hasn't served you well. Maybe you don't know what's going to replace it, but that doesn't matter. What is the first step is to actually just let go of what hasn't served you well, and open yourself up to whatever it is that is coming in to replace that. And of course, it's probably the first January. We would have had a full moon in January, probably the end of January. I was going to say it's the first one for the new year, but it's not. It's probably the second. But it seems the thing about January, February to me is there's always a lot of hang-on going on in January, particularly here in Australia, because in our big holidays here in Australia are basically from the week before Christmas, like that week before Christmas Day, everything starts to shut down. Our major school time shutdowns is here in Australia on basically the few days before Christmas Day. Some of the private schools go off a week or so before that, and then nothing happens over Christmas, basically. We've got Christmas, New Year, and then we have major school holidays right through to the end of January. So January is often like a weird month for us here in Australia, because you've got a lot of people on holidays. It's our summer. It's the height of our summer. And you've got a lot of people on holidays, and a lot of unis aren't back, schools aren't back. Everything's sort of in this holiday mode. So 1st of February, when that comes around, school goes back normally the last few days of January, first few days of February, depending on the school. Universities aren't back yet. So you got a lot of teachers still off. It's sort of February often feels like the start of getting back to normal for the year for us here in Australia. So let's see now and there's something weird happened with the cards this week that I'll explain in a moment. Oh, and I just noticed I forgot to take the rain sound off here, so we're getting the rain. So we're getting the rain for good measure. Now to click pause on the video, look at the card A, B, and C, and so what happened here is I started off with Laura Bowen's Dreamtime reading cards, which are one of my favorite decks, and then as I was about to pick those cards up and select them, the saltwater reading card deck sort of kept impinging on my thought process. Virtually in a no, this is what you've got to use. And I'm never sure when things like that happen, whether it's because I always feel cooler when I'm using this deck. I like the water energy that comes with this deck, and that's sort of a personal thing, or whether this deck had something in particular to say for all of you. And then what happened was I shuffled the cards as normal. I put them out. I went to select 3 cards. Why 3? Well, because that's sort of what can work in well in the period of time we have for this reading. So I picked A, B, and C. And as I picked the third one, I was absolutely positive that there were 2 cards stuck together. And so I checked and I went, no, that's just one card. Put them down, all right, put away the rest of the cards. And then as I picked up the third card again, lo and behold, it was two cards. I mean, really stuck together. Not in any physical way, like there was no glue or anything there. It's just they were literally so tight together. It took a bit of energy to separate them. So for the first time, we have 4 cards in the deck. Jot down either in the comments below or on a piece of paper, wherever you think is appropriate, which card resonates most for you. This is not something you have to do within seconds. It might take you a couple of minutes. At this point, you might walk away and say, I'm not going to do this today. That's all very fine. But is it A, B, or C that most calls to you? Or D? Okay, so card A. Now, I read last week from Laura's Dreamtime reading card, and if you want to go back and review that video, we got the sea turtle and the freshwater turtle. Lo and behold, this week we now have another turtle. Because this is like the saltwater reading cards, this would be the saltwater turtle. And I'm really always curious when a very similar animal keeps coming up again and again and again. If you read through the explanations of the cards that Laura's got, the explanations that come up here are, it's virtually identical to what she's got in her saltwater turtle in her other deck. So I asked the turtle, why again? What is it that came that maybe you think we didn't get well enough last time you showed up for us? And the answer I got was this change, this period of change and this period of lots of travel and returning back to your base, which is sort of what happens a lot for us here in Australia in late January, early February. There's this return to base. There's this return to home. There's getting back to routine. There's remembering what routine was about. And the turtle's just saying, well, no, I didn't have a really huge, big, super message. I just wanted to reinforce the message I had for you last week. And, of course, the naming on it is instinct. And the turtle also said to me that they wanted to refresh our memories about the fact that they are holders of a lot of ancestral energy and to honor ancestral energy. So we've just gone through what's called, what is called Australia Day still here in Australia, January the 26th, where it's a celebration of the white people of the world discovering Australia, finding this, they reckoned, uninhabited place. It wasn't uninhabited. It was well and truly inhabited for many, many, many thousands of years by our indigenous population. And so the turtle reminds me that we live here in a country that's got incredible amount of ancestral energy about it, an incredible amount of very, very, very deep indigenous history. And it's saying, after all the hype we had about Australia Day and being Australian and the larrikinism of Australia, go out, get drunk, get sunburnt, that sort of thing, to remember to honour the earth, and to remember to honour the ancestral knowledge that this countryside holds for us, and to trust our natural instincts, to dig back down into our natural instincts and to trust them and to honor them and let them guide you. That all of that, the noise that is December and January is over, and it's time to recenter, recalibrate, get back to basics. Consider what you're here to achieve. There's this, as I say, it's very much this February is very much this, right, the playtime's over. Let's get back to let's get back to let's get back to normal life now. You know, you can't stop being in this half holiday mode, or maybe that's about me personally. I've had really struggled all January to be in something other than holiday mode. The sea turtle urges you just consider what you're here to achieve. If you're feeling pulled towards a change of direction, or feel of calling to follow your dreams, the sea turtle's affirming that you should do that. And that's, you know, that comes along with that changing of the year, change. You know, the holidays are over. Maybe you've contemplated a lot of stuff during the holidays because you've had time to stop and think. Follow that instinct and do whatever it is you feel drawn to, because now it's a really, really good time to do that. So that's card A. Sorry, I just had to sneeze a minute. Card B was a fish. And this is an interesting card because it's not one creature as one animal as such, which a lot of the other cards always are. They're always a turtle or you know, an ant. I always get a lot of individual energy, whereas in this card, I'm getting a lot of combined energy. I'm getting energy, and I'm getting messages from the fish group as a collective rather than a fish. Sometimes when you use these decks, there are various sorts of types of fish that she uses. This one is fish in general, and it's the wording on it is learning, and that's very appropriate for this time of year because all the learning, the major centers of learning in our society is starting up again. You know, schools, primary, high schools, kindergartens, universities are not far off starting up. But even though they haven't officially started classes, there's still a lot of stuff going on to get, you know, up and running for that. So February, particularly this early in February, so the 4th, this reading's about the 5th to whatever it is, the 5th to the 10th, doesn't sound right. The 5th, yeah, the 5th to the 11th is what it is. Learning features very heavily. So we've just had mums in particular come, you know, their back to school, all the back to school stuff going on, the back to school ads going on, you know, buying books, kids starting school, or kids migrating from primary school to high school. We have kindergarten here, which is the first year of primary school. Then we have kinder to year 6, so kinder, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is our primary school. And then at primary school, we have 7, 8, 9, 10. They go to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which is high school. And then after high school, year 12, where they graduate with a high school certificate, they then go on to either university or to a trade college or into trades. Or nothing, or just, you know, into retail. Nothing sounds awful, but, you know, into no tertiary education, unlike the system in the States, which is a bit different. And the thing I got about the fish is that they were saying that it's normal life to live in a group, in a collective, and that at any point in time you might be the big fish in the small pond, but then you might go from being the big fish in the small pond to being the small fish in the big pond. And that we see that very much so when you've got children going from primary school into high school. Primary school is usually quite smaller, and in Australia a lot of our primary schools are like only a few hundred kids. They're not huge primary schools and huge high schools like you have in the States. So it's pretty normal to have disruptions in how you would feel in the collective. Do you feel like a top person in the collective, or do you feel like a bottom person in the collective? In the collective group you're moving with, and the fish are telling us that you're all swimming together, you're all learning together, and there is safety in that togetherness, and that it's important to swim and learn together. And of course, in this world now, where a lot of it's online, it's not necessarily in traditional schooling. Since COVID, we have a lot of people now doing things like homeschooling, but they still have their collective groups, but it's online. So you're always within that group. And it's about experiencing lessons collectively. It says, the book says, schools of fish represent the cycle of learning and teaching, both of which we do every day in our lives. You never stop learning. The day you stop learning is the day you die, full stop. Because we're always learning, even if it's not in a traditional, even if it's not in a traditional learning environment, you're always learning, or you should be. And the fish point out that this move from, big fish in a small pond to little fish in a big pond changes where your place is within the learning. Are you the person learning, or are you the person teaching? And that happens, through lots and lots of changes throughout our life. It even happens within a job. Maybe you've gone from one company where you've been in, where you were seen as the mentor, and it was a smaller company. Maybe you've gone into a bigger company, and you're now the person that still has to learn again. And of course, then you work your way up through that. It says, when fish come forward in a reading, it can represent a formal course of study, a return to learning, or a time when you will not have all the answers, where you may need to research or apply yourself in an academic way in order to become more knowledgeable in an area of interest to you. So this also goes back in with our new moon, our new moon coming through, our full moon coming through, and a time of reflection, and also a time of, okay, the holidays are over. It's now time to knuckle down and start learning again, to start studying again, whether it's study in a formal sense or just study in terms of studying what you need to do within life. Practice routine. So that was an interesting card. There's a lot of blue energy in all of this this week. And just see if this Book of Laura's does the stuff about colours like she does in her other books. But blue to me is about healing, refreshing, replenishing. No, she doesn't. She does it in her other book. We were talking about that last week. Blue is about washing clean, changing the colours. So let's see what card C has to tell us. Helps if you unmute yourself. Card C is the pelican. His beak can hold more than his belly can. I remember that from childhood. I love pelicans. I really do. The only thing is, they've always been to me, they've always struck me as a very, what's the word? A little bit greedy. Like if you watch pelicans eat, it's like grab, shove it all in your beak, and almost to the point of overeating. I spent a lot of time growing up on the Central Coast. We did a lot of holidays to the Central Coast, which at that time was very much a country town. It's not anymore. It's now part of Sydney and it's a huge metropolis. Going to a place called the Entrance, where the entrance to, I think it was the entrance to one of the big rivers, and lots and lots and lots of pelicans. I mean, hundreds of pelicans. And of course, we'd buy the proverbial fish and chips and sit down on the water and watch the pelicans. And they always struck me as greedy birds, because they seem to sort of like grab and take much more than they should. And to me, that's the message that the pelican's giving us here today. As soon as I saw this card, it was a card that said to me, slow down. The resources will always be there. You don't need to hoard them. You don't need to grab everything you need. Take what you need rather than being over gluttonous. it warns us about taking on more, also in terms of taking on more than we can handle, and overcommitting or trying to please everyone. And what also flashed into my mind when I was looking at this card is the pelican saying to the mums and the stay-at-home dads and the ones that have been so busy the last 2 months with school holidays, and I can think of a few business owners I know who literally have not been able to run their businesses because they've been snowed under with parental responsibilities. We do have a system of childcare here in Australia, like everybody does, but unfortunately not everyone can afford childcare, or you have older children. So our childcare is mostly about very young children, for people who have to work during those times, and like for very young primary school children, not for older children. So there's, December, January, you see a lot of women particularly, and I am being very sexist there because it's usually the women that the child caring responsibilities fall on. But you see a lot of them that by the end of January or the middle of January, they're going, oh my God, I'm over this. Like, when are you crowd going back to school? Because they run ragged. And the pelican said very clearly to me when I first drew this card, it's okay, it's over, until the next lot of school holidays, which is Easter. But the Easter school holidays here, we only have a couple of weeks. The middle of the year, we have a couple of weeks. Spring, we have another couple of weeks. And then we're back to this huge 6-week break in December, January again at the end of the year. So the pelican said the time of having to handle more than you think you can handle is over. And congratulations, you handled it and you did it really well. And you should pat yourself on the back, because you were really good at what you did and you survived it. And that it was okay to put yourself behind at that time, to not take what you needed because you were in overwhelm. But that's over now. And I got a very clear message to the mums, particularly the mums with lots of kids, that it's okay now, once these kids are back at school, you've got all their textbook, you've got all their school books done, their uniforms, they're back at school, they've all settled in that, that first 2 or 3 weeks, to make some time for yourself. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. And to look carefully at what's important to us, and to steer away from sacrificing our own needs in order to meet the needs of the collective family that you've been having to do over this period. The pelican, because of this huge beak and this ability to take in so much, tells us that we are capable of taking in so much, that we are capable of being overwhelmed, and that we survived being overwhelmed. Know your own value, not allow others' needs to come above your own unless we're honestly willing to make that sacrifice for the right reasons. To be honest about what the reasons are and why making the sacrifice is important to us. But to me, the pelican's message today was more about, you've done it, you've made it, breathe a sigh of relief, because the next few weeks you get a chance to just breathe and be, and just be a lot freer than what you've been over the last few weeks. So that was card C, which is normally when we finish the reading. But then now we're going to put the fourth card. Thank you very much. Oh, and I didn't manage to change the audio. Sorry about that. I've been a little bit rushed today. So card D is the penguins. This is the card straight away after the pelicans, which is possibly why it was so closely entwined. But and it is fairy penguins, which are so cute. We have some of them here in Australia in certain spots, but we certainly don't have many of them. When I read the word trust, and the fact that this card was so intricately bound with the pelicans, what I got an immediate image of was trust that you have survived this. Trust that you're going to be able to do this again when you get called to do this again in the next 6-week period. And trust that the last sort of 3 or 4 years we've had 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 4 years, they're over. And that 2004 is going to be a better year, and trust that you've had the ability to cope. Here in Australia, we're getting clear indications the interest rate rises are slowing down, probably stopping for a while, and maybe even decreasing. We're getting, instead of interest rate rise, we might be getting an interest rate fall. Certainly our inflation's gone down quite a lot. So that will mean the government will take off some of the restrictions they've been putting on us. And although a lot of the stuff in the book is about pelicans and trust and saying trust in others around you, to me the big message coming from the pelicans this week, or this reading, was more about trusting yourself. Not trusting others around you, but trusting yourself. Trust that you do have the capabilities. That it is within you, and all you've got to do is allow yourself to trust in yourself. Yes, you've got to allow yourself to trust in others. And the same message, I mean, that message comes across for the mums who might be doing it tough at the moment, where their babies are no longer at home. They're no longer their babies at home. They've gone to primary school, or doesn't so much happen when they go from primary school into high school, or high school into university. Although it will happen with those who finished university last year and they're now in that very big move, which is away from the family home. Here in Australia, our universities are not like your college systems in the US, where you have children leaving the home to go to college. Most of our colleges here in Australia, they don't tend to leave the home. They don't tend to go and live away like you do. They still stay within the family home, or they stay within the family area and go. Yes, there is some dorm living, but although there is some going out and sharing accommodation, but not anywhere like the system you have in the US. But there is children. They're young adults. They're not children anymore, but they've finished their education, and they're now off. They're off to, a lot of them go off and go traveling overseas. A lot of them then go off and move. That is still happening. And it's about parents handling their ability to cope with that. If it's saying, if you don't feel like you can trust in yourself, then find someone else that can help you with that journey. Find someone else that you think will help you create that trust. So I think that's the reading for today. Just to recap, we've got the moon that's reminding us that a full moon's coming, and then we've got the various messages from the animals, which seem to be all on a very similar plane today. So that's it from me. For being here with me today. I hope you found this enjoyable. It is for educational purposes only. If you do want a fuller reading, then I do those obviously online, so you can be anywhere in the world. Just go to petcaremagic.com and you will find the link to book a time to have a fuller animal reading. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification buttons if you want to be notified when I do more of these each week. Thank you, and I hope you all have a really great week.